saopštenja. Dobrodošli u Medija centar na konferenciju za novinare Delegacije Evropske unije u Republici Srbiji. Iz najave Medija centra vidjeli ste šta je povod, predstavljanje godišnjeg izveštaja Evropske komisije o napretku Srbije u procesu evrointegracija. Izveštaj će predstaviti ambasador Vensan Dežer, šef Delegacije Evropske unije u Republici Srbiji. Nadam se da ste svi uzeli prijemnike, konferencija se simultano prevodi. U isto vreme vas molim, ako se niste upisali u spisak, da to učinite nakon konferencije. Reč ima ambasador Vensan Dežer, šef Delegacije Evropske unije u Republici Srbiji. Izvolite.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. I think you just heard the Commissioner Füle presentation statements about the enlargement process. He notably gave an outlook of the actually package that the Commission is presenting today. There is, as usual, the strategy paper, which is looking ahead while we see the future of the enlargement process, what will happen. And also is giving for each of the country, of course, a more detailed assessment of the progress achieved in the period between October 2011 and September of this year. So I will, if you allow me, focus rather on the second part in relation to Serbia, what has been done in Serbia during last year. Nevertheless, I think Commissioner insisted very much. I think that we want to move ahead with the enlargement process. It's something which is lively. It's something that all of us are committed to. When I say all of us, is the Commission, the Parliament, and the Council. So the EU institutions are eager to see this enlargement process continuing. Obviously, with Croatia next year, but of course also now in the negotiations with Montenegro and the different high-level dialogues which have been engaged with the different countries in that framework. So I think the message is we want to move ahead. We want to tackle, of course, a number of reforms issues, rule of law, economic challenges and the crisis. The Union itself is confronted with that and is taking a number of steps forward. So it's important that the countries are aligning themselves with the different steps and governance issues that we are tackling within the European Union. And we want to work and to actively interact with all the countries in that context. So that's the general, I think, framework in which we are operating. What about Serbia? For Serbia, first of all, I think, and the report says it very clearly, we have never had such a strong relation as we have it today. When we look back in time, we signed our Stabilization Association Agreement in 2008. It's almost completed in terms of ratification. Only one member state is missing ratification because elections are ongoing, and I hope after these elections that the process can be relaunched in the concerned parliament. But it's not just Stabilization Association Agreement. It means also that our interim agreement in trade has been coming into force immediately in February 2010. And since then, we see already the result of that. Clearly, about 60% of exports and imports from Serbia are with the European Union. If you add to this area, if you add the EFTA countries and if you add the CEFTA countries, so the CEFTA countries are the countries of the Western Balkans. CEFTA, I remember, everyone has been an idea from the Commission back in 2006. So replacing the 28 or so free trade agreement that existed between the countries of the region with a single agreement, the famous CEFTA agreement. And this has been a great success in a sense, notably for Serbia, because if it is one area where Serbia has a surplus in terms of export, it is with the CEFTA region, with the CEFTA countries, or with Bosnia and Herzegovina, with Croatia and the other countries around. So I think this undoubtedly has been a very great success. So our trade relation and integration in terms of trade are already very present. Not only that, clearly the agreement sends a very strong message in terms of stability and predictability. And when you have predictability and stability, it means also that you are able to attract investments. And this is what Serbia has been doing over the last 10 years. It's more than 11.5 billion of investments that have come to Serbia and are continuing to come to Serbia. We mentioned yesterday Geox, for instance, but I think the list is there. Fiat, Telenor, all the countries that all the companies that you know very well, which are present here on the market, are coming because they see this stability and European perspective of Serbia as a key element for doing business here in Serbia. This process has also been supported by us also financially with donations. Often people ask me what is the difference between a grant and a loan. A grant is given to you, you don't need to reimburse. A loan, you need to reimburse. So I think it's always important to make the difference there. And in terms of grants, Serbia is clearly receiving from the European Union about 3.7 billion over the last 10 years. So that's quite a substantial amount to help with the infrastructures, with the modernization, with water treatment, with the Danube strategy, with all of that we have been financing over the years here in Serbia. So I think from that angle also the commitment to Serbia's EU future is a very clear one on the side of the member states and the taxpayers of the European Union. But we're not only here to talk about numbers and investments, but also another element which has been very attractive, I think, for all of the Serbian citizens has been visa liberalization in 2009. I'm not hiding the fact that there are some difficulties from time to time with implementation of the visa liberalization, but it's a clear acquis that is there between Serbia and the European Union, and we have to build to make sure that we can have a smooth implementation of the liberalization process in the future, because we are all convinced of the importance of maintaining and continuing with this process of visa liberalization. All of these elements have also brought a number of reforms in Serbia, and the efforts that Serbia has been making over the years has been recognized, because candidate status, as we all know, was granted to Serbia on the 1st of March of this year, which is, I think, clearly now showing how advanced and how much we have developed our relation. With that, also the community programs of the European Union are open to Serbia. So those community programs are normally for our member states, but we are also opening to candidate countries and potential candidate countries, and therefore I'm happy to see that Serbia is actively already participating in the 7th framework program for research and development, in the competition innovation program, in the technology ICT program, but also in programs such as culture. So I think clearly the relations are far beyond trade. It's culture, it's modern technologies, it's business-to-business cooperation, it's the whole range of activities which are there stimulate. So we have a solid, all that to say, we have a solid ground on which we want to build and to move forward. That's why the Commissioner said clearly now is time to accelerate. So what do we have to do to accelerate? This is what I would like to come now. The question is often put, is this report a positive or a negative report? Actually, this report is a very, as usual, objective photography of the situation here in Serbia. In that sense, we see this report as a useful tool to prepare the next steps, I would say the roadmap and the objectives that Serbia, or the difficulties, we're not hiding a number of difficulties in the report, that Serbia obviously needs to tackle in order to move forward, and to move forward to get to the next steps, which is the opening of negotiation. Here, I think there's nothing really new in that respect, because the Commission gave its opinion already in October of last year, and has been, I think, clearly explaining there what are the expectations and so-called conditions. So I think there's no new condition, as I hear it from time to time. Those conditions have already been spelled out in October of last year. They are clearly to be repeated here. The first element, and the only actually issue is, and the priority, is the dialogue between Belgrade and Pristina, which we expect to make a sustainable and a visible improvement, and I will come back to that point. Obviously, at the same time, while this priority is the key factor for moving to the next stage, we need also to look at the reform process, to continue with the reforms in the political criteria, as I say, in the human rights and justice and fighting against corruption, but also in other issues such as economic and market opening and capacity to withhold competition. And of course, at the same time, at all of the 33 chapters of negotiations, which are touching on the whole life, I would say, of the citizens in the country. It's social policy, it's public procurement rule, it's freedom of people, it's energy, environment. All of these issues are part of our approximation process. So in a sense, I think this progress report is paving the way. What needs to be done? What are the steps that we need to do in order to move forward? So the two issues. One, dialogue, and the other thing, reforms in general. First, on the dialogue. Clearly, the European Union and Commission in particular was never of the opinion that this issue should remain a frozen topic, because when things are frozen, they usually create tensions and problems, and this is not the way forward. Therefore, we have been arguing for launching this dialogue between Belgrade and Pristina since 2010, and we are happy now that this dialogue has been moving forward and has delivered on a number of achievements. These achievements are clearly agreements which have been concluded: free movement, customs stamp, civil registry, diploma. All of that is complex, sensitive, delicate, but it's agreed, and it has started to be implemented. So we are calling on the two parties to engage fully in making the implementation of this agreement a reality. I didn't mention cadastre. Cadastre also is part of the process, and here, as I said, it's not only efforts that are asked on the Serbian side, we also ask on both sides in this respect. For instance, on the side of cadastre, they were expecting some legislative development to take place in Pristina. So that's the previously concluded agreement. In the report, we are encouraged by the fact that Serbia has recently adopted means to allow the implementation of the two agreements which were concluded prior to the candidate status. This is the participation in regional cooperation events. I think some 6 or more such gatherings have taken place with the participation of both Belgrade and Pristina. So the inclusiveness to which we are very much attached in regional development has been developing and is today a reality. The other agreement has been this famous IBM protocol, which has now been signed by Serbia a few weeks ago, and this is a good step in the right direction. Actually, today there is a meeting in Brussels with Mr. Pajevic, who is actually discussing the modalities and elements of the implementation of that agreement. So we see that we are making steps forward. Nevertheless, there's always a major team somewhere. Nevertheless, it's clear also that there has not been any dialogue meeting since February of 24th of February of this year. So it is, in our view, high time to re-engage into the dialogue process, and this is what Mrs. Ashton has been proposing, based on expectations from Serbia to raise the level of the dialogue to a more political level, and she has committed herself to be ready to engage into this process herself, in order actually to tackle the issues which notably the issues which the Council in December 2011 has fixed. This is notably telecom, energy, cooperation with ULEX. Those are the issues which notably should be tackled, but not only, I think I should say notably, but not only should be tackled within the dialogue. Of course, it's for the parties, so it's for both Belgrade and Pristina to decide on the substance and the issues that have to be brought into this framework of the dialogue. What is important in the Commission report as well to note here is that we expect both Belgrade and Pristina to continue on their respective EU path, and that not one or the other should block the European perspective of the other. So I think this is a clear message of the importance to move with both parties into this process and to have a fruitful dialogue and commitment. That's the part of the dialogue. The other issue is, of course, the reform process. Maybe I go here into more details on the achievements by Serbia or on the problems that we still have identified in the report about the situation here in Serbia. There are many issues addressed in the report. The report is more than 67 page long, so it's quite. I'm not going to go into every single element of it, but just to highlight the most important ones, and I leave it to you to check it after. One critical issue which Commissioner has already been mentioning in its address is, of course, justice system and rule of law in that respect. This has been a difficult file already in the previous reports. Clearly, the issue of independence of the judges and prosecutor has been the overlining problems which we have been dealing with in the last 3 years because of the re-election process of the judges, which were criticized in our report at that moment of time. It triggered a review process. The review process was unfortunately also criticized by us. And finally, this whole process has ended up in the Constitutional Court of Serbia actually cancelling the whole, not the whole election process, but actually the rejection of a number of judges and prosecutors from the profession, and has ordered the reintegration of more than 800 judges and prosecutors. Of course, this is a disturbing factor in the process of independence of the justice system, and it's important now to rapidly implement the expectations given by the Constitutional Court to reintegrate the different judges and 126 prosecutors which are there. It of course raises more generally the question of the functioning of the institution, the High Judicial Council and the State Prosecutorial Council. We are attached to the stability of these institutions, of course, but we also have to make sure that full legitimacy and full respect of the standards and norms are ensured there. Both institutions have a number of decisions that they should have reached or should reach. For the High Judicial Council, we know that the election of presidents of courts has not yet happened. So this is also pending for the last 2 years. So this is another problematic topic. The people which were elected back in 2009 and brought into the profession, about 800 of them, have now to be evaluated after the 3 years. So that's the probationary period for these judges and new prosecutors. This has not yet been carried out, so there's urgency actually to proceed with that. We are also happy to see on the other side the reinforcement of the Judicial Academy. But the Judicial Academy, in our opinion, should be indeed the only and single entry point into the profession, and that's still an issue which is open. And globally speaking, there is the question about the influence of the Parliament over the nomination process of judges and prosecutors. And we believe that we should have a stronger independence from the judiciary, from the legislative power. So those are critical issues related to the independence of the judges and the prosecutors. There has been a few positive points, nevertheless, on the impartiality, let's say, of the justice system, because over last year, a system of allocation of cases, let's say random allocation of cases, has been put in place. So this is done on a, let's say, very objective basis. We also see, in terms of accountability, that the judges and the High Judicial Council has established a disciplinary system for judges with clear criteria. So this is also a step in the right direction. Of course, implementation will be key in order to assess the efficiency of that. Efficiency overall of the justice system remains a very serious concern. There are about 6 million cases at any moment here in Serbia for a population of 7.2. It's a lot. That's to say the least. So obviously there is an effect of that. The effect is the huge backlog, so the old cases, which is estimated at more than 3.3 million cases in Serbia. And that explains why when there are so many cases going to the Human Rights Court in Strasbourg, I think Serbia alone is 6% of all the cases brought to the court in Strasbourg. And this is due to the lengthy procedure in front of the court. Often the complaints that people are bringing to Strasbourg is in relation to the lengthy procedure. So obviously there is a need to improve that, that situation here. The other issues, I think, which needs to be tackled is what also the European Parliament has been noting, is the reform of the Criminal Procedure Code and of this famous article on the abuse of office, 359. This is a challenge, but more generally speaking, we are also looking at the new adversarial system that has been now in place in the war crime prosecution in the special for corruption and organized crime, and we have to make sure that the procedures, the financial means, the training for the prosecutors in relation to this new approach of prosecution is properly implemented. So those are difficult challenges. Another one which is also being brought to Strasbourg for that reason is the problem of enforcement of cases. Still, the number of enforced cases remains an issue. Judgments take a long time, and when you have a judgment, it's not enforced. So that's really a problematic topic. So there is a need for, in our view, a complete review of the strategy for the justice system. We want to have this strategy based on what we call a functional review, meaning looking at the complete photography of the judiciary, defining for each of the fields which I mentioned, and maybe many more, what are the corrective measures, defining time frames and actions to actually make it function, and see that in, I hope, a few years' time, citizens will be regaining confidence in the justice system. This is the only valuable element which will indicate whether there is success or there is no success, whether the citizens have trust or don't have trust in the justice system. This is basically the challenge. It's a difficult one, so we are ready with our colleagues from the International Committee to support the efforts of the government. But again, it's very clear that the ownership on the reform is undoubtedly on the Serbian institution side, and it's up to them to take up these challenges and make it work. The second critical field is fight against corruption and organized crime. Here, for a long time, we have been complaining in a way about the absence of strong political steer, despite nomination of the Minister of Justice as the coordinator in the previous government. Now we welcome the strong emphasis that is given by this government to the fight against corruption. This is an important message for the citizens as well, that they see that there is zero tolerance in a way, and that that no one will be above the law in that context. So that's an important commitment. Now, commitments have, of course, to translate into reality. We are, of course, interested to see that all cases are followed, from the small cases to the what we call a high-level case. So I always had questions about big fish and small fishes. It's not a question of fisheries. It's a question of efficiency, I think, that we want to see. And actually, the question, and it's also raised in the report, is that we have not only cases which are appearing in the press, but cases which are followed up until there is a proper indictment, until there are clear proofs established, and until there is a decision, a justice decision, and a proper sentencing in that context. And that's also something which has been missing in the fight against corruption for a number of years, if not decades. And this is the expectations that we have. We've been educating in the past a number of cases which have been drawing our attention to. We're happy to hear that these cases will be dealt with by the authorities. We understand also there is sometimes time needed to conduct the investigations for that, but we hope to see that all of these cases will be moving forward. Give an example, vaccine case, Kolubara case. All these cases were 1 year ago on all the news, in all of the newspapers. Today they are not there anymore. They have been replaced by others. But we are not forgetting the others which were mentioned 1 year ago, and we want to see that all of these cases are properly followed. On a more institutional basis, I think we all know that there was a strategy for fighting corruption designed in 2006. This strategy was hardly ever implemented. So in a way, it has been some kind of a failure. So there is an obvious need to relaunch both the prevention and the repression in the fight against corruption. And the new strategy should be now elaborated. Some drafts have been prepared. They need to be finalized. I rely on the government to help finalizing this exercise, preparing again this time a strong action plan, and ensuring what is very important when you have a good strategy is that somebody is in charge and responsible for its implementation. So this is something that we expect to happen in the coming weeks. We also want to see that the Agency for Fighting Corruption, which has been developing its capacity, both human and technical, moves on in exercising their full competences. This is also in relation to electoral campaign, on the declaration of assets as well. So they are expected to come on full speed and to deliver on the high expectations that have been brought into them. Special prosecutor, of course, for organized crime and corruption has a special role here. We would like to make sure that they have all the capacity to work. There were 115 investigations conducted last year. As I said, investigation is a good thing, but if it brings to indictments and sentencing in front of the court, and there there should be no lenient sanction, neither for low level, rather for high level cases as well. And in all of that, we believe that the protection of witnesses and protection of whistleblowing is a critical issue and needs to be also improved and reinforced. It's only if citizens are convinced of all that, that there can be an expectation of a deterrent effect of the different judgments that are expected. Here also, we are believing that in these matters of corruption, the flow of the money, the tracing of the money, is a very good indicator of who's benefiting, who's not benefiting from the corruptive behavior. So obviously the capacity to trace the flow of funds is a critical issue, whether we're talking about public procurement, whether we talk about public enterprises, whether we're talking about privatization, health, education, whatever. It's important to trace this issue and to show to the citizens that, again, zero tolerance and no one is above the law is a clear principle applied. In the report, we are also pointing to the weaknesses in the reform of public administration. On one hand, we welcome the adoption of the law on the administrative inspection, which is a good thing, but on the other side, there are many, many other pieces of legislation which are missing. The law on administrative procedure, which is very critical. If you don't know what is the procedure, what is the time frame for the procedures, and so on and so forth, and you have too many procedures, then it opens the grounds for delays and possible corruptive behavior. So it's very important that this law on administrative procedure moves on. Also important, the law on local employees and local salaries, which are not for the time defined. And we also look forward to the implementation of a proper merit-based recruitment system. On the side of the control bodies and independent bodies, such as the Ombudsman or the Commissioner for Public Information and Data Protection, I think we are satisfied to see that some mandates have been renewed. This is for the case for the Ombudsman, for the Director of the State Audit Institute. Those are welcomed decisions which have been made recently. Of course, what is important also is that the recommendations that are given by these institutions to the administrations are properly followed. Unfortunately, for the Ombudsman, I think some 30 to 40% of the recommendations were not followed, so it's very important that clear messages are given to the administration of the need to observe 100% of the recommendation given by the respective control bodies. Another topic is civilian oversight of secret services. This is a field where we have seen little progress over the years. There has been a judgment given on the monitoring of telephone communication. It is high time that the proper implementation of this ruling by the Constitutional Court is observed. Other issue which is giving a lot of importance in the report is the situation of human rights. Generally speaking, the legal framework for protection of human rights is a satisfactory one. Unfortunately, on a number of accounts, the implementation is a problematic topic. This is the case for freedom of assembly and freedom of expression. It concerns, or it refers, of course, also notably to the Pride Parade, and I was here last Saturday, obviously, for an indoor event where we were hoping to rather see the sunshine. But it's not just a question of freedom of assembly and freedom of expression. It's more deeply, I would say, a question of tolerance and acceptance within the non-discrimination within the society. I think these are the critical figure. It relates to LGBT population, but also to domestic violence. There has been some progress in the field of domestic violence with some telephone line that women can use in this respect, or special shelters which have been built, but often still it remains an underlying problem which sometimes is also unreported by the police, or not qualified properly in that context. Children's rights, they've seen also limited progress. There has been some reduction of numbers in the children placed in institutions, so they have been receiving foster families. There has been a campaign also against violence in the schools, but actually when you look at the statistics, the violence in school has in fact increased. So there is, on all of these accounts of human rights, room for improvements. Minority remains also an issue mentioned in the report. On the positive side, the legal framework, which is there. Some achievements clearly from the National Minority Council. The fact that we conducted the census and that there was in general participation for all minorities, and the census was in the different minority languages, so that has been as positive steps. Nevertheless, there remains a number of open problems for minorities in terms of minorities knowing about how to exercise their rights, sufficient awareness, information, and also a problem of availability of media in the respective minority languages, of textbooks, so that's education, of access to different religious possibilities in the respective languages. On the side of one of the minority Roma, we've seen recently a positive step in the right direction, which has been the adoption of the law on the invisible Roma. This has been something that has been followed for a number of months, so this is a positive step. The social inclusion of Roma also has been receiving attention with 170 teaching assistants or 75 health mediators, so this has been positive steps made, but on the other side, we also know that evictions which are conducted are not always following the international standards, so there's room, obviously, as we say, for improvements in all of these fields. Regional cooperation and regional issues. First, in terms of international obligation, Serge Bramers was here yesterday. I think globally we are very satisfied for the cooperation with ICTY. All fugitives are in Den Haag. This is definitely a positive step. But on the side of domestic prosecution of war crimes, we appreciate a number of cases which have been brought to justice. Here, nevertheless, I think some improvements are still needed in the field of notably witness protection. And we are hoping that Serbia will be able to sign the agreement that has been prepared between prosecutors with Bosnia and Herzegovina. The problem here is not on the Serbian side, but on the side of Bosnia and Herzegovina. We need a good climate to tackle regional cooperation issues between the leadership, and there all declarations which are made are very important in helping to face the past, because if we have a good cooperative climate, we can tackle all the issues which are needed. This is refugee return, and here we have seen some progress between the cooperation between the countries of the region in establishing a agreement and organizing a donors conference to build facility and housing facilities for the refugees in need. So Serbia will be the first beneficiary of that program. Some 16,000 apartments are to be built in the next 5 years to help to accelerate the closing of the collective centers, and also to found a decent place to live for this less favored population. Another field which is of importance to us is the field of missing persons. I met a few weeks ago with the families of both Serb and ethnic Albanian family who came together There are still more than 13,000 missing persons reported in the region, 1,770 for Serbia and Kosovo in that regard, and I think it is high time, I would say, that these families can know the fate of their beloved person. As I said, if there is one thing where they are very united, this is in sorrow and tears. So I think it's about time to get over that issue. Regional cooperation in general, I think Serbia has achieved a number of steps with the countries of the region, and cooperation has definitely increased over the last years, even if there is, of course, room for improvements remaining. On the economic side, which is the other second criteria of the report, clearly we are pointing to a difficult situation in which Serbia is. I spare you all the long figures and numbers, but obviously the current account is increasing to more than 9% today due to the limited transfer from the diaspora abroad, because everybody is affected by the crisis, so there are less transfers coming from abroad. Trade deficit is increasing as well. Foreign direct investment was still very high last year, due notably to almost 1 billion investment in the distribution sector. We'll see what the performance will be this year, but it's expected to be less important than last year. The dinar has lost 10% since the beginning of the year towards the euros. Labor markets increased to 26% of unemployment. This is very serious issues. This increase of unemployment has been taking place even in a time where there was a rather lax policy on the side of the deficit, on the side of the debt. The debt has been more than doubling in the last 3 years, from 28% to 60%. Deficit is going to reach this year 6.7, it may be more percent, instead of the 4.25% originally foreseen. So there is a very, very difficult trend, and it's very important for Serbian economic decision makers to stop this negative trend and to reverse it. This means what? It means a number of issues that needs to be done and tackled. First of all, to tackle this fiscal imbalance and to restore fiscal discipline. I think the government has taken a number of measures in that direction, but we fear these measures of increase of VAT and other incomes will not be sufficient, since the expenditure side is continuing to grow. What is also pointed in the report is the need for more structural long-term reforms. These structural reforms have been present in our previous reports, but have not, I think, so far been implemented as they were expected to be implemented. This concerns the restructuring of public-owned companies, is concerned the finalization of the privatization process. Only, I think, 4 companies were privatized last year, which is out of 130 or more which remain in the portfolio of the privatization agency. On top of that, since there are a number of contracts which are cancelled, actually there's sometimes more company remaining in public ownership than getting out of public ownership. But also this means other reforms in the business environment. More has to be done. It's not acceptable that Serbia is so low on the the World Bank Doing Business index. So I think clearly issues such as giving building permits, facilitating business creation are issues which Serbia need to pay a lot of attention to as well. On top of that, there's the question of the number of employed people compared to the number of people on retirement. This number is almost 1-to-1 today, with a huge deficit, structural deficit in the field of the pension system. Same thing for the health system, which are structurally in deficit.
This is impacting very severely on the budget of the state. So there are measures, obviously, which need to be taken to tackle this problem. I was mentioning the state-owned company also before the restructuring. I think it's about 1 billion euros per year that is lost somewhat by these companies. This represents alone about 40% of losses of the Serbian economy. So the impact here also is huge, and these efforts of restructuring should be undertaken very rapidly. On the approximation of all the chapters of the acquis, there are 33 chapters of the acquis, so I will not give you the readout of every single chapter, just to say that you can classify them in certain criteria. No progress, 2 chapters. Little progress, 5 chapters. Some progress, 18 chapters. Progress, so more than some, 3 chapters. And good progress, 5 chapters. So I think just to say that despite the election period, I think generally speaking in 26 of the chapters out of 33 we've seen some movement and some things moving in the right direction. As I said, in 7 other chapters very little or actually sometimes no progress has been made. What is a no progress chapter? To illustrate, I'm just going to give one illustration for one no progress and one progress chapter, so to be balanced. No progress. This is where we have a situation where sometimes instead of moving closer to the EU legislation, Serbia is distancing itself from the EU legislation. The critical issue here was in August the adoption of the changes on the amendments to the law on National Bank, obviously affecting the independence of the National Central Bank with this. Instead of the 6 years mandate which governors usually enjoys, this possibility within 90 days and without clear justification and no judicial control to actually replace the governor. This has been seen by the opinion union, but also by the IMF and other observers as an inappropriate move, endangering the independence of the central bank. On top of that, this adds up to the issue I mentioned just before, the absence of structural reform. So this is why in that chapter we consider that no progress has been made and has been achieved by Serbia. If I take a chapter now which is good progress, to rehearse the atmosphere, statistics has been a good chapter where substantial progress has been made. Further approximation with not only the legislation but also the methodology used by all the statistical offices in Europe has been achieved by the statistic office here in Serbia. Also the classification issues have been put in line with the ones from the European Union. But also practically speaking, it's not just a work on the approximation. Also they've conducted 2 census. One is ongoing, which is the agricultural census, according to the norms and with the support of the Eurostat in this context. And also the census that were conducted in the end of last year, the population census, which was, I think, a success also for the involvement of the different minorities in that overall census. So those are, I think, positive steps I wanted to note. In conclusion, I just want to repeat what I said to the Prime Minister. We believe we have a very solid relationship which has been built between the EU and Serbia, which is evidenced, I think, by the huge work that has been done over the recent years. We also point in the report about the difficulties, which still are the challenges that Serbia still needs to tackle. We are seeing this report as I said, as a roadmap, as issues identified to be taken into account and to be improved for the future. It's very important we move forward and we don't lose time. So I hope we can achieve that. We are ready on our side. We don't lose time also on the different chapters, as I said, because the more progress we do today on this chapter, the more easy it will be in the future to both open the chapters, to open the discussion on the chapters, and also to close the chapters, because to open a chapter, you need to have a good alignment of legislation and the structures in place. Usually to close a chapter, you need to have a track record. I mean, you need to show that not only the law is there, but the law is actually implemented. So all the work that we can do to bring things forward will be useful work in that direction. That's what I wanted to say about the report in synthetic words, because as I said, it's 67-page long, so it's always difficult to synthesize this in a few words. Thank you.
Zahvaljujem se ambasadoru. Izvolite ako ima pitanja. Ako pitanja nema, ja se zahvaljujem gostima i izvolite.